Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I probably already mentioned it in my Elantris Part 2 live stream that should have aired by now with Kite. Instead of doing our usual read through, we are going to meticulously take notes and diagram them through our discussion. So I'm sure this may be disappointing for quite a few folks, but I hope that this conversation will be as exciting and spontaneous as the previous format allowed for.
Definitely, we won't be losing any of the depth.
Yes, and this does not mean we're going to not be doing readings in the future, especially the blind blinds, but we do want to experiment, shake things up every once in a while, and the nice thing about this is that we can have this nice camera visual going on and the diagram while we go.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of which, shall I reveal it?
Please do.
Now that I've hopped it up, that's quite crazy.
Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host, Matt Darn Kite.
Dorkus and I are both going into the story completely new, with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way.
Hold on to your butts, because this is Ascension Unleashed, a blind read-through. And today we'll be covering Chapter 39.
Chapter 39!
You can see.
So, before we get into Chapter 39, Kite, I think we both left our last read through less than satisfied, a bit frustrated, a bit deflated.
Yes, but I feel better about it afterwards. Having gone into this next chapter, I'm okay. I recovered from my disappointments. I'm actually still happy that Elend is alive, and actually the worry that was brought up from what Elend was thinking about Vin, that kept me. That was on my mind the whole week. So that kept me going. That kept me out of my disappointment, if you know what I'm saying.
Cool. Now, I like that Penrod won. That was one of the big things that sunk in. I really liked sort of the subtlety of it. I don't think at any point you or I really considered him a contender. It was
Right?
always
Yeah.
Elend or Sat.
We thought he was honorable, and and because he was honorable, he wasn't a factor.
Yeah.
We didn't consider him doing what he did, so it was that actually makes me think. You know what? I wasn't that disappointed with the last chapter. That sort of reveal was like, ooh, that was
Yeah.
cool.
I think that was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still not entirely happy with those last few paragraphs where just one or two, I guess, of the noblemen or council members was just like, this vote didn't go the way I thought it would. Can I change it?
Yes.
Mine?
Yeah.
That was still very unsatisfying to me.
Infuriating.
Yeah, now I understand it was to reinforce the idea of Elend will always tell the truth, even if it's against his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
But I really don't think that juice was worth the squeeze. I wish Penrod would have just won outright, because it has already been reinforced that is who Elend is.
Yeah.
And what he will do.
Yeah, we didn't need it. And again, yeah. Because we didn't need it, that was not worth the squeeze, really. That kind of it was like a mini twist within the scene. Wow. Eh.
Yeah, it didn't feel good, and I don't think Ellen losing was supposed to feel good, but just this idea that someone could have changed their vote at the end. I'm sorry, I don't know how else to say it.
I
Other than
really
that, it's
mm,
just like scummy in a bad way.
I really resonate with you saying the juice was not worth the squeeze. Like, the whole just sure, it works. It does what it needs to do, but it wasn't worth it. The 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 discomfort and the sleaziness and the illogic, the lack of logic,
Yeah.
that it was not worth it for me. I was very frustrated. I think if you go back, you'll see how frustrated we both were,
Yeah.
because, yeah, it was a blind, so we were like, "What the frack?" Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe this is just my own ignorance. I don't know of any other situations in which voters can just up and change their mind like that
Yeah.
after it's been cast. I mean, uh,
Is that a
I mean,
thing in any parliament? Like, if that is, I would not be happy about it.
yeah,
Because, yeah, it just doesn't, as a principle, it doesn't make sense to me, but again, I'm willing to accept my ignorance, if there's a good argument for why that should be allowed.
right. And there are like different ways you can go about holding votes, right? Which is one, what they did, which was, Joseph, how do you vote?
Mhm.
Ned, how do you vote? And you just go one at a time. And there's an argument to be made that it's not necessarily fair for the people at the end of the line because they see how everyone else is voting. At which point you say, well, why not just vote all opposed? Yes. All against? No. And then you can get into, well, there could just be blind voting, put your tallies in a bowl anonymously, any number of things, but a system in which after the vote is taken, people can decide to change their vote, even if it's just once, even if everyone's given the option, does not
Yeah.
make sense to me.
To me, what it does is undermines that first round of voting. It undermines the
Yeah.
value of that vote, in the first thing. So, yeah, I'm still sour about that. Thank you for reminding me how sour I am about it.
Sorry, get to. So, but all of that said, as I said at the start, I like that Penrod won. I
Mhm.
think that was a nice, subtle twist. This week, I was also wondering, are
Mhm.
we going to see the Well of Ascension in this book? Because we're getting close to the end.
Yeah, we are getting close to the end, so I don't know if we're gonna arrive there and that's it. Like, uh,
Cliffhanger.
cliffhanger kind
Well
of thing.
hanger.
Hey, yeah, exactly. Or we don't even arrive, we leave Lutherdale. Vin and Zane leave Lutherdale, and we'll see you in the next book kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
Actually, a note that I've just thought of, if you see on the screen there, I just thought of. This is the first chapter for chapter 39. This is the first thing, we're in part 4, knives. And just thinking about the last chapter, we were talking about Vin being the knife
Mm-hmm.
of Elend and whatever. So this part 4 seems like it's, I don't know, considering the name, I'm wondering if it's like the part where Zane and Vin go off and do stuff because they're the knives. So it'll be interesting.
That's
Mm.
that's a very interesting take, and I hadn't thought of it in those terms. I took knives to mean something to the effect of this is when the fighting's going to break out. This is when
Knives
there's going
out.
to be
Yeah.
some backstabbing. This is the
True.
deep end of the pool.
I feel like that's gonna happen anyway. I think it works. It doesn't have to be only one meaning. It could mean both. Why not both? And the previous part was king. So that was about Elend being
I
king,
love that
founding the
knives
king.
here is in reference to the Mistborn. I
Yes.
really do. I'm so glad you do this with me, Kit
I
Kat.
did a thing. Woohoo. So yeah, that just occurred to me as we were talking about the thing. So that's what I love about, it's like, guys, that's what I love about diagramming, man. So speaking of which, shall we get into the first bit?
Yes, let's start with the epigraph, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
I know your argument. We speak of the anticipation, of things foretold, of promises made by our greatest prophets of old. Of course, the hero of ages will fit the prophecies. He will fit them perfectly. That's the idea.
Okay, let's put in our comments. What do you what's your first thought here? My first thought is, yes, okay, you're still being fragmented here, Quan. Get to the point. So for me, my thing is get to the point. Okay? And I feel like I will write that all out for you.
I feel like we're closer to the point than we've ever been, which is good. But I
Okay.
feel like I've felt like that before.
Okay.
And
Close to the point. Yeah.
I hear the logic in the straw man's argument. That's the
Mhm.
idea. Of course he'll fit it. I do. There is logic there, but I'm still kind of reeling from my thought from last week that essentially what Quan is arguing here is the exact reasoning why you and I don't think it's Vin.
Yes. We agree with the logic, the steel man sort of being what would you call it? Did you call it a straw man or a steel man?
The Quan saying, of course the hero of ages will fit the prophecies, is, well, a straw man or a steel man.
Depending on who you
Both
are.
opposite. Yeah, depending on who you are, I guess, of the other people's argument. So not
Okay.
Quan's belief, but the other people's.
So I'm going to put a note here of our argument that Vin isn't the hero of ages. Like, just a note there because we actually have Quan's argument. we
Right,
are thinking it fits too much.
right.
Yeah.
So to simplify all of that,
Mm.
I agree with the logic of the person Quan is arguing for. It makes sense that the hero of ages will fit the prophecies because
Mm-hmm.
he's the hero of ages.
That's the whole idea of a prophecy.
Tautology, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get that. I really do. It's just that also
Yeah, so I think that's why I
it's
put the but in. Yeah, okay.
yeah, it's so clearly Vin that there's no way it could be Vin.
Right. And as we've said, we're thinking it's actually Sazed.
Yeah.
Okay. I think yeah,
Or
that's
Zane.
about it. Or Zane, yeah, but it's becoming a
Or
bit more.
Marsh.
Well, where is Marsh?
Where is Marsh? I
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
put
I'm just going through my mind everyone I have considered as the hero of ages. I know I've considered Marsh. I know I've considered Sazed, and I know I've considered Zane. And I know I've considered friendship.
the hero of ages is the friends we made along the way. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right. So
I
this,
doubt it's anyone else in the crew.
yeah. But I think the one we have the most conviction about anyway is, hey, it's not Vin. That's all. We
Yeah.
have
Well, I feel fairly strongly right now that it's Sazed.
uh-huh. So
He's the
you
guy I keep going back to.
okay, so oh, well, I suppose, I mean, we do have our prediction log that's private. We should actually now put it at some point. We'll visually share that, our prediction log.
Yeah.
Maybe a stream or something at the end. But maybe I'll just put here, it saws it. Okay, cool. So there you go. This whole chapter is a Straff POV, but yeah, this is how we've broken it down
Yes.
into. Yes.
So I liked this chapter quite a lot. This is my favorite Straff, by
Mhm.
which I mean this this Straff, the Straff in this chapter, has felt the most grounded, the most real as a person.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get that at all?
Well, I didn't have that sense that you had before anyway, that as much, the mustache twirly thing. I didn't have that as much as you did. So I didn't have that much to recover from as you did. But yeah, he's very grounded in this. And we really do get how how affected he was by Vin.
Yeah.
I were you surprised at how affected he is by it? I was like, "Wow, he really is." Like, I thought he would have recovered by now because his ego is just so massive.
I'm not. I
Uh-huh.
think he got the living daylights soothed out of him or rioted out of him. And I think it's in keeping with the Straff that I know. And I think he's reacted
Yeah.
reasonably, believably in the circumstance.
Mhm. Okay. Well, for me it was a surprise. It was a pleasant surprise. I enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
I agree also I enjoyed Strath. So, let us open up all of the things into the in-depth analysis. Mm,
Yes.
yes, these just so you guys know, I've made like our comments are gonna be formatted like this. Okay.
So the chapter opens up with Straff and Zane leading an entourage of about 50 soldiers. Zane's walking and Straff is on horseback. There was a specific line here that I want to call out.
Mhm.
Though he would have preferred a carriage, he felt it important to travel by horseback and present a compelling image for the troops.
Mhm.
The reason I highlighted this in my chapter is because I felt that there was a certain sense of irony to the line, an irony to Straff um, wanting to present a compelling image. I think it connects to this idea of safety and security versus unsafe freedom. Straff looks great. He
Mhm.
looks secure, but that's a bit of an image, isn't it? He doesn't have he,
Mm.
it looks secure, but it's really tyranny underneath. What do you think?
The way that Straff looks great, but it's not real, he actually is insecure. Then the parallel over there would be when you've chosen safety, but it looks nice and safe, but it's tyranny. So I'll say parallel choosing
The theme
safety.
of the
Yeah,
book.
theme of safety.
Or no, freedom. Safety versus freedom. Safety of tyranny versus
Mm,
freedom, which you don't
safety.
have to put in there. That
Yeah, theme
gets
of
the
safety
idea.
versus tyranny. I want to put in here that it's safety looks like safety, but it's tyranny. So
Yeah.
that's the same thing. Okay, I like that.
I thought this chapter had quite a few moments, we'll call them out as we get to them,
Mhm.
of this sort of double meaning,
Mhm.
which I wouldn't have expected from a Straff POV chapter. Nevertheless, here we
Yeah,
are.
because
I
he
think
was
it's an
one note,
excellent
right?
chapter.
Yeah, he was one
Yeah,
note. So now it's like double meanings are actually everywhere.
yeah. Now, Kite, you really honed in on the Zane walking element. Is there anything you want to say about that?
I you know what was quite interesting here was that it's felt how does it feel like Zane walking is arrogance? Because you would think, right, generally, Zane walking, he's shorter than the horse, right? He's below. So it's like that puts you at a lower thing. But the reason that he's walking is actually quite nice and subtle because it's like, yeah, because he could run faster than a horse. Okay? So if for a normal man to be walking next to a horse, that would be bringing yourself down. But for a mistborn, a Mistborn can walk next to a horse and not be intimidated. So it's actually Zane swaggering. I mean, even the word swagger is even used. So I'll put swagger and Zane Zane could run faster.
I believe the word is sauntered,
Oh, it's
unless this is a
saunter. Yeah, no,
difference
it's
in
not saunter.
addition.
Yes, saunter could run, but he's saunter, so it's Zane could run faster than a horse. He's actually not lower than Straff here. It's for me that was a note. It was really noteworty because it, you're getting at the strength of Zane here,
Gotcha.
or just a subtle reminder of his. He's a Mistborn, boys. He's yeah, sure you can walk next to the horse, but he can run faster than your horse. He's not just following you around, Straff. Anyway.
The next line I highlighted as they are walking through the mists and Straff is feeling very exposed.
Mm-hmm.
He could still remember her touch on his emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that he thinks about quite a lot in this chapter. He
Yeah.
was right scared.
Yeah, that's my point of like I was like, oh, so he's still feeling this way. So he was really was affected by Vin. So it's like Vin scared of Vin .1 plus one. And then just it goes on and on throughout the chapter. You get more and more reminders of how scared he is of Vin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then I'll let you take this next beat.
Yeah, the next beat was that. So he taught Zane. Straff talks to Zane and says, "Well, you failed me because Venture and Set are still alive, and 6 of his best Allomancers were killed, which are, by the way, 1/3 of Straff's Allomancer children. So what I want to say is Dorkus called it because because Vin did say they looked familiar, and we were like, I don't know, that they are Ellen's brothers. I don't know. I feel like I dismissed it and said no, it can't be. It would be, that's a bit too obvious. But maybe it was just one of them. I think that maybe was where we landed. It's like okay, that just the one that she killed gruesomely was one of the brothers, and the rest are just normal Allomancers. No, no, no. All of those boys were half brothers of Ellen's and Zane's. And also that means that we have, because he says 1/3 of Strath's Allomancer's children died, which means we have 12 left.
Yes, and that gives us a good
Mm-hmm.
number to work with. And there's some lines. It had taken Straff decades of work with his mistresses to gather so many hidden Allomancers.
Mm-hmm.
Zane had destroyed a good third of Straff's Allomancer children.
Mm-hmm.
And then Straff thinks to him, well, we'll get to that.
Yeah, that's fair.
This gives
Mm.
us a very nice barometer
Mm.
of how frequent Allomancers are born, I think. There
Frequent.
was a line I must have
Mm-hmm.
forgotten to put it in the notes, Kite. So let's
Well,
while you're putting that in, let me back up just a quick moment to say that as Zane is saying, "I warned you that they might die." Straff responds, "For a purpose, Zane. Why did you need a group of secret Allomancers if you were just going to send them on a suicide mission in the middle of a public gathering?"
okay, so that's yeah. There is this one here. Why did you need a group
Yeah,
of secret Allomancers? So that's Zane. I mean, Straff saying that to Zane.
yeah.
What was your point about that one?
My point about that is, can we talk a little bit about the efficacy of Zane's plan?
Uh huh. I think it's as effective as he wanted it to be. He wanted those guys to die, and he wanted to test. My theory is that he wanted to test Vin, see how Vin does. And he also is not too sure about wanting to kill Vin, so he'd rather just send those guys in. But what's your note?
That would mean that Zane knowingly sent in his siblings to
Yeah.
die, essentially with the expectation that Vin would survive.
Mm-hmm.
See, I had imagined, because I don't feel like I was really given any alternative,
Mm-hmm.
since Vin never told Elend about the confrontation,
Mm-hmm.
that Vin had made her choice and she was prepared to fight Zane. I
Mm-hmm.
suppose I had imagined that Zane might have understood that, and so he was prepared to kill her. Maybe give her an out. Maybe I expected him to appear to Vin in the middle of the night while she's out on patrol with the siblings and basically say, I will kill you if you don't come with me right now.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose that was more in line with what I had expected. Zane could have killed her.
Okay.
That
Yeah.
seems fairly transparent to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
If he went with them, yeah.
yeah, and it well no, if he had ambushed her at
Mm-hmm.
night, he absolutely could have beaten her if he had gone with them as well,
Mm-hmm.
but he
Okay.
chose
Mm-hmm.
not to.
Could have killed her at at the assembly, or even at night, ambushing her. So that was
Yeah.
your confusion. Your confusion was like, why did he do this assembly thing?
The only logical conclusion, I think,
Mm-hmm.
but it sounds so paranoid coming from Straff, is that Zane let his siblings die. He sent them on a suicide
Yeah,
mission
he did.
without the expectation that they would be successful, because
Mm-hmm.
he, I think, would have gone if he truly wanted Vin dead.
Yeah. So what you've taken from here is he doesn't want Vin dead, and
I
that
think
surprised
so.
you.
Yeah. And again, reaching into whether or not Straff is truly paranoid in his conclusions this chapter or not,
Mm-hmm.
Straff told Zane to kill Vin. He didn't say to assassinate Elend. For the
Mm-hmm.
time being, I don't think he wants Elend dead until Vin is first. So
He wanted all of
this,
them dead, I think.
yeah. Actually, now that you say that, I'm like, actually, that does jive more
Mm.
with
So yeah,
the
I feel
rest.
like
But it
yeah.
yeah. Doing it all at once, I'm saying, was not, I think, the greatest chance of success. I think
Mm.
Zane should have, if he earnestly wanted to carry out Straff's orders, should have ambushed Vin at night with the Alamancer hit squad, used a bit of Adium, finished her off, given her the option to go with him, of course, and then take care of Elend and Set.
Yeah, but you're forgetting something very important. Zane is
What?
insane. Okay? Zane doesn't really know what he wants. In the same way that Zane is poisoning his father in every now and then. That's kind of what he's doing here. He's like, Vin could die with these 6 elements. I'll put her in that danger. I'll do it. I kind of hope she won't die. So that's why I'm not helping, because if I actually help, that means she's dead. So I'll not help. That's as far as I'll go. But hey, Vin almost did get killed in that scenario. She was quite desperate at one point there. So I can see him watching and just seeing how it goes, because he doesn't know what he wants to do with Vin. He doesn't want her dead, but he also knows that he wants power. So he's confused about it himself. So that's the best he can do, is send his brothers to their deaths, see how it goes. And that's fine.
Right.
And also, it's see if Ellen dies. Oh, Ellen dies, that's good. Ellen doesn't die. Oh well, that doesn't matter. He's insane. He doesn't care. And yes, sure, he wants to fulfill the orders given to him by Straff, but on his terms. So he's gonna do. So Straff says yes, disrupt the assembly meeting or whatever, do it, kill Set and Illand and the and Vin. So kill them all, and he's like, yeah, sure, and he does it the way he wants to do it. And I'm with Straff on this. The fact is, Zane didn't go in and help, meaning that he's for some reason, which Straff doesn't seem to pick up, that it's because Zane gives a shit about Vin. He absolutely is
Hmm.
blind. He's blind to that whole possibility. Just thinks, okay, Zane's just insane. That's all. So just remember
Yep.
that it sits nicely with me because he is so unpredictable.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'll jump slightly ahead because there's a line.
Mm-hmm.
But if that is Zane's goal, then why not kill me himself?
Mm-hmm.
Zane didn't make sense. He didn't have to. That was
Mm-hmm.
perhaps one of the advantages of being insane. For the
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
part, I do want to go in order with this,
Mm-hmm.
but I will say just because it doesn't seem like there's a reason to straff
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean that there isn't
Isn't
a
it?
very specific reason that Zane does what he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure, besides the fact that Zane acknowledges that he's insane,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean that there isn't a very specific logic to the decisions that insane people make.
Yeah. It's just that the beliefs that they have are rather insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to go in order,
Mm-hmm.
Straff thinks to himself, my children dead, our hand exposed, and that creature of Ellen still lives.
Mm-hmm.
There are two things in there that I wanted to call out.
Okay.
Straff thinks the phrase my children
Mm-hmm.
a handful of times in this chapter,
Mm-hmm.
and there's really a fine line that I think leads more toward the loss of an asset more so than children. But there's a fine line between him seeming to be concerned that his children are dead versus an asset.
Mm.
This is also the first time that he thinks of Vin and he thinks of her as a creature. That
Yeah.
was noteworthy to me.
Yeah.
Speak, Kite.
For me, that's where I want to say scared of Vin +2. So +1. Scared of Vin again. Because +1. Like he thinks of her as a creature. So that is part of this. Holy crap, he is properly scared of Vin. Like there's just these notes every time of him referring to her in a certain way that is an admission of fear to me. So that's scared of Vin +1 when he calls her a creature.
Yeah.
So the reason I put this here, okay, so your highlight was that Zane said he really thought this would work.
I really thought this would work.
Yeah. So he actually did think of that strategy. Remember, we kind of thought that was quite a smart strategy. Where it's like Vin won't use coins because she cares about everybody else, so she won't be using coins in close quarters. And he thought, yeah, that would limit her. But that wasn't the difference between life or death at the end. She did still mess them up. She didn't use coins, but she worked it out and she did pretty well. So I liked the idea. I liked that it does go back to what we were talking about before. So I'm happy. Like, yeah, Zane knows Vin, how Vin thinks. Sometimes he does. So I thought that's why I put that as a comment. Why was that? Did you not believe him about this?
I genuinely don't know whether or not to believe him when he says that. It all comes down to whether or not he was prepared to actually kill Vin, I
Mm-hmm.
think.
Okay, yeah. He thought it would work, but he was kind of hoping it wouldn't. But if it did, he would also be like, oh, okay, I guess she wasn't strong enough. That's my opinion.
Hmm.
So there, I would relate back to the insanity. He's just insane. So.
And then you note that Zane at this point starts talking to himself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is great, I think, because the anytime we've been with Zane from someone else's POV, he has not spoken to God.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first time we get an outside POV in
Mm.
which he does that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was well done.
Yeah. I like it. And it's kind of like, okay, he is growing a bit more unpredictable now, because this we haven't seen this before. We haven't heard it. We've only heard it inside his head. Now it's kind of getting its way out. Like he in this outburst, he's like, no, not him. And then it's like, and not them as well. So like you can hear him talking, you can guess from the previous chapters what God is saying, kill them, whatever.
Yeah.
Mm.
It really did make Zane seem insane.
Yeah, yeah, he is. But then, obviously, in reaction to this, that's why they're in the same block. Straff thinks to himself,
Yet no matter what Zane thought, Straff was no fool. He knew at that moment that Zane was hiding something. Why send those men to die? He must have intended them to fail. Otherwise, he would have helped them fight the girl. And that's
mhm,
more or less the logic that we've been
discussing, yeah.
saying.
Mm.
Yeah, and discussing. It makes sense. And Straff does seem quite paranoid this chapter, but the logic is there.
Yeah, I think he needs to be if he's this scared of Vin. And Zane is showing signs of becoming more unpredictable. So he should be paranoid. He should be scared. Good. And he should be worrying about what Zane's doing, because he's actually got Zane is out of control here, because he wanted Zane to kill Vin, but Zane didn't even help them. He didn't help
Yeah,
them fight the girl. So he's noticed that. Don't worry, he took note of that.
yeah,
And it's like, okay, so that means, so this is Straff's reasoning. Oh, otherwise he would have helped them fight the girl. Then he goes, okay, so he that means that he sent them to die. Okay, so why would he send them to die? Jealousy, lust for violence, boredom. So though he considers those things, right? And
right.
for me, my note there is, why not all of them? And also, my other note is, he's insane. So my other note is that Straff doesn't consider Vin of interest. It doesn't consider Zane could be interested in Vin.
Right.
So that's where I'd put my note there.
Yeah.
That's why I included this bit. Okay.
Gotcha.
So there we've discussed the outburst.
What have I gotten myself into?
Yeah.
And he starts thinking about how unpredictable Zane is.
And I want to note what you said here. You said that first time we're hearing Zane speak to God out loud from someone else's POV. That's just what I wanted to note there. So I noted here that Straff doesn't want to rely on Zane. So this is more about his results. So he's like, okay, over here, he's just like thought, okay, yeah, Zane's so insane. Zane is very insane. The paranoia, which I think is granted. Now he's like, he's questioning, which sets it up beautifully for the rest of the chapter. He's questioning, okay, I'm relying on Zane for a lot of stuff here, but he's mistborn and his protection outweighs his insanity. And here he goes, barely. So it's like, yeah, it is on a knife's edge. So I want to write here, great setup.
Yeah. Especially considering that he will have a very different opinion by the end of the chapter.
Exactly. I love that, because it's like, look, it's barely, and now that this tiny, well, it's not tiny, I don't think, but something changes and he's tipped over the edge, and that makes so much more sense to me. I like that setup. The reason I put this here.
You needn't worry, Father. The city will still be yours. It will never be mine as long as that woman lives.
So for me, I thought that was quite a thing because like that woman, it's Vin scared of Vin +3 to +2 again. So we're
Yeah.
at 3. Like just that woman, just the way the fact that he refers to her in any form, shape or form is just she's bothering him so much. So that's why I'm counting it as scared
She
of Vin.
she can't even think her name, and it's
Mm,
great
mhm.
because Penrod uses her name
Yeah.
later on in the chapter
Yeah.
a bit
She
casually.
she's a person to him, whereas he's like, it's a
Mhm.
creature. That woman, Ellen's mistress, Ellen's creature. Like it's very visceral. He's properly scared of her. So loving it. You also highlighted that was there something you also wanted to say?
Perhaps that's what this was all about. Zane's attack was so obvious that everyone in the city knows I was behind it, and when that mistborn demon wakes, she will come after me in retribution. So here we have him calling her
A
a
demon.
demon,
Yeah, so scared of Vin +1 again. So we're on 4.
but this also, I think, I'm a bit surprised that Straff was prepared to agree to a plan that involved killing all three at once. I thought he was a bit smarter. And he was so scared of Vin. He clearly is so scared of Vin that he, I imagine, would have been more inclined to say, no, you corner her, take her out, and then we'll deal with Ellen.
So, yes, that is a question that comes to mind, absolutely. But for me, it is he has actually lost control of Zane. Zane is doing what he wants. Zane's doing
Hmm.
taking her. Zane says, "Yes, father, I will take her out," and he says, "Do this and this and this," and Zane's like, "No, this is how I'm going to do it." And that's the way it's going to
Right.
be. I'm in charge of this, father. Like that is part of him losing control of Zane because Zane has been an asset, but now it's like, no, now I've actually got to get rid of him because he's not worth it anymore. His juice ain't worth the squeeze. Call back. You know that's what I'm thinking.
and yeah, and I don't have a problem with
Mm,
Straff being confident enough to believe that
mm,
6 Allomancers.
yeah.
Actually, I do have a little bit of a problem.
Now
I
that
mean,
he's
unless he
scared.
expected Zane to be there,
Mhm.
but it doesn't seem like the most pragmatic thing to do. It's not what I
Yeah.
would have done.
He did.
So
Yeah, and he
I
did
question the
say
wisdom.
he must have intended them to fail. Otherwise, he would have helped them fight the girl. So maybe he thought that he was gonna help them fight the girl. He was not aware exactly of how this plan was gonna go, but oh, it just so happened that Zane did not take part. So maybe Zane made him had him under the impression that he was going to take part and fight the girl, but then he didn't. And we have that Zane was growing more unpredictable. So it's like it makes sense that he would think a certain plan's going to happen, but he is actually out of control. So I'm going to put like Zane has more control over plans
Right.
than Straff.
And
Yeah,
and then this gets Straff wondering, but if that is Zane's goal, then why not kill me himself?
they
He's
connect.
questioning, he's slow walking himself to realizing that Zane is not an asset. But the line I want to get to, based off of my previous point about how afraid of Vin he was, he says, Zane says, one way or another, you will soon have nothing to fear from Vin. To which Straff responds, she thinks I tried to have her beloved king assassinated. I thought that was the exact thing that Straff was trying to avoid by handling Vin
Mm-hmm.
first. So I still, it's, it's a bit of a stretch to me that Straff would have allowed this plan to go forward.
Yeah, I understand. It's a bit of a stretch that he would allow the plan to go forward, but
But you don't think that
ma-
he
there's no
had
allowing.
intended.
There's no allowing
Yeah.
going on. There's Zane is taking care of it. Zane does whatever the hell he wants. That's my explanation for why any of this went the way it did. It's because of Zane. So now he's just upset that the plan didn't work. He's just upset that what Zane executed, because he did. He earlier on he got, you failed me. He says that you failed. So it's like he was given the task. Hey, kill all three of them. Okay, but he's obviously very scared of Vin. He wanted Ellen to die and he wanted Seth to die. He was like, okay, do it at the assembly. Why the hell not? But now because Seth lived,
But,
yeah.
well, I mean, at that point, why not just send in the whole squad or
But
half?
but
Why a
he's
third?
he's he's the leader of the squad. Zane's the leader. So that's what I'm saying, is that he has no control over Zane. Zane is the is
Yeah,
in.
but
Mm.
Straff gave Zane command of the other Mistborn sons,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't imagine if you're going to be sending assassins into a meeting in which there will be at least one
Mm-hmm.
Mistborn, let alone Set's bodyguards and Allomancers, let alone whatever other Allomancers, the crew, Ham and Spook. I would have sent in more than 6, which again speaks to Zane's intentions and whether or
Mm-hmm.
not he had intended the attack to fail.
Yeah, so this is more of what I was thinking, is that it's Zane's plan anyway. So nice that of you to think for Straff, and yes, I understand Straff is smarter than that, and so is Zane. But Zane, insane, and he just wants to do things, and then Straff is then confused and says, "Why wouldn't he just kill me himself if that's what his plan was? Because if his plan was to fail, to let Vin get more angry, then Vin kills Straff." That does help Zane as well in his insanity, because Zane feels icky about killing his own father, but at the same time wants to kill his own father, and will poison him and will not poison him, and will poison him and will warn him about the poison. So do you see what I'm saying? That Zane's insanity here and his just spontaneities and unpredictable nature makes all of this make sense to me. And I love that's also why I love that line that you also highlighted, where it was like he didn't have to make sense. Yeah, he doesn't have to
Hmm.
make sense. Nope.
Here's the thing. I think it's too convenient to write off
Okay.
any of Zane's actions as being due to insanity. Um,
When I
I
when I say insanity, I mean insane intentions. He's got his own deep. He's got battles inside him. Those are real. When I say insanity, I don't mean, oh, lack of understanding. I mean he's just got these battles inside him.
hmm.
He his fight for, like, at one end he wants his father to be his father, deep down, and on the other end, no, he wants to kill his father. Oh no, but he feels weakness because he can't kill his father. So there's all those things that are legitimate, logical motivators. But the insanity part, what I mean by insanity, is how all of those take over at different points, unpredictable points, and he wants events to decide for him, actually. So if Vin died, I think he would find, okay, fine, then just be insane with what happened with Vin dying. If Ellen died, if it all worked out, he would just continue on his insane way.
Gotcha.
Mm.
And then there was a good interaction, I think. Straff says, "She thinks I tried to have her beloved king assassinated." "No, I don't think that she does. She's far too clever for that." "Too clever to see the truth," Straff thought. What do you think about that idea of being too clever to see the truth?
I mean, I don't know if we spoke about Straff in the previous chapter, that it was Straff who did this. We didn't really talk about it that much. I was very much on the thing of, oh, this is all Penrod. I guess I didn't get to who would bring, where Penrod would get those assassins from. Because Penrod won at the end of the day, I was focused on Penrod, and I was thinking of blaming Penrod. I didn't think immediately Straff, or I wasn't busy thinking have to go after Straff. I guess that was I wasn't clever enough there.
Well, I have comments about that for later regarding Straff as always going to be the one to get the city
Mm-hmm.
due to him being more secure than Set, and the
Mm-hmm.
whole theme of this book being safety and security
Mm-hmm.
versus dangerous freedom.
Mm-hmm.
So you, it may well have been a foregone conclusion that it would go to Straff.
Mm-hmm.
But this idea of too clever to see the truth, well, that takes me back, as you said about thinking about previous things, this takes me back to the meeting with Alan, Vin, and Straff, in
Mm-hmm.
which Vin was pretending to be demure, and Straff didn't see it until Elland called him out on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of too clever to see the truth, because we all know how we get in our own heads
Mm-hmm.
sometimes.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, in a way, you could almost call being insane being too clever to see the truth, because you've got all of these ideas going on in your mind and they all connect, they all
Mm-hmm.
make sense to
Yeah.
you, just
So
a
do you,
lot of
yeah.
overlapping topics.
Mm-hmm. Because when we were in Vin's POV, she thinks I tried to have her beloved king assassinated. The fact that Zane wasn't there, that that makes it actually makes her go. That might make her go that what it wasn't Straff, or something. It maybe she won't think of it. Maybe that's why he also didn't intervene. Is that so she goes, oh, it was just Penrod who wanted this to happen. So I don't know. I'm just trying to say that, like, we actually need a bit more insight into what Vin thinks of all this afterwards. I don't feel, if I remember correctly, I don't think she referred to Straff or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Oh, that does remind me, and I don't know if it's something you had talked about. I don't think I did. But this, we've both complained about Vin not even having a thought to herself
Mm-hmm.
about Zane's revelation of the siblings.
Oh yes.
And I think that complaint still holds true,
Mm-hmm.
but I could see a pathway toward Elend being upset with Vin when Elend finds out that those were his siblings.
Yes, true.
And
I
that will be high
mhm.
drama.
Yeah.
But again, that doesn't absolve Vin of, that does not absolve Sanderson of giving Vin an internal thought.
Mm-hmm.
I should really tell him about this.
Yeah,
Because
something.
that, yeah. But
Eh,
I do see the high drama that could come of her not telling him. I want to
mhm.
clarify that.
Yeah, that is something I wanna note. We did say it over here, 12 left. Those were, I think it was Zane could have killed her. Da, da. Basically, just with 12 left, I think we do say here that Ellen will be upset that Vin killed his siblings. But he needs to realize, I think the journey with this point is that he will have to realize that it's not Vin's fault that that's what happened. Those were his siblings attacking him. Those siblings exist as weapons because Straff is so freaking evil. It has nothing to do with Vin. Like, I understand it's an uncomfortable truth, but Vin was protecting him from his own damn father. Okay, so I feel like he will initially have the high drama experience of it, and yes, be very freaked out with Vin. He saw his brother's head explode now, and that sort of thing, and also maybe feel betrayal that Vin didn't tell him about the Alamancers and about Zane being his whole ass brother or half ass brother.
Yeah.
Um, any of that is high drama. I'm there for you, but I'm honestly thinking the biggest point he needs to come to is hello. Straff's the worst.
Yeah. And then that brings us to the second part of this. I say part as if it's like a different section. It's
Mhm.
not. the second part of the scene, which is Straff and Penrod meeting.
Mm-hmm.
And it opens essentially. I'm glad your son didn't have to die. He's a good lad, a bad king, but an earnest man. And then Straff thinks to himself, a lot of my sons died today, Fersen. The fact that Ellen still lives isn't fortunate, it's irony.
Mm-hmm.
I get good guy Penrod vibes this chapter,
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense. He's doing something bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I think, born of fear, and that's understandable. It's not good, but it's
Mm.
understandable. And Penrod clearly, we already know this has been established in earlier chapters, clearly does think very highly of Elend.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. There's a lot here in this chapter that does make me like Penrod.
Yeah, I agree.
Yay, thank you. And then in this interaction, we get the second a lot of my sons died. And you think for just a brief moment of time, oh, does he feel bad about that? And
Mm-hmm.
then he leverages it into, yet Elend lives. And suddenly it's like back to, oh no, you're just upset you lost an asset.
Right, exactly. It's sons equals assets. I mean, he's got unnamed sons, and then it's just like, oh, but this Ellen is still alive. It's like, oh, everyone is just so disposable to this man. God.
But I think I interrupted you when you were going to respond to my comment about Penrod.
Penrod, no, basically it was just agreement. Penrod, I feel, is just trying to do the best he can. He's just made decisions that we don't really like, but they
Mm-hmm.
come from good places, and he's glad your son didn't have to die. Like, I'm happy about that, but I am still mad. It's like, well, he could have, okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I'm glad for you, but you know what? It makes me sad because I'm just like, you know what? If you just helped Ellen, it would have been better. But he's like, he obviously made the decision that nah, he's probably better off with taking Straff.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't think they could win.
Yeah. So, and this is the whole reason we get to. He gets a bit more of a an explanation of why he. Basically, we do get an explanation for why he made his decision as he did a little bit further
Mm-hmm.
down.
Before we get into that,
Hmm.
though, I want to call out a little bit of a subtle Sanderson.
Hmm.
With this revelation that Penrod and Straff have been working together,
Hmm.
essentially,
Hmm.
I think it's pretty much defined in the last chapter that Set was under attack and Elend was under attack.
Hmm.
I don't think there was any mention of Penrod being under attack.
No. So it is obvious that Penrod has benefited from this. That I knew
Yeah.
from the last chapters. Basically this was, I knew it was Penrod who had coordinated this, but I hadn't thought of Straff being. I just didn't think far enough. It's so obvious, but Straff and Penrod orchestrated this. I just only knew the Penrod part by the end of last chapter. So when Penrod comes out of the mist, then I'm like, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what happened. That's how it is. And it was disappointment in Penrod having worked with Straff for it, because it's a betrayal that I got, but at the same time I understand it. So, like, I don't know, it would have been better if Penrod was just betraying Ellen by himself. That's what I mean. That it would have been better if he was just betraying Ellen on his own, and then. But now the fact that he was working with Straff makes me even more ugh about it. But
Yeah.
I understand. I get it.
Yeah. So then, as you note, Penrod confirms that the merchants will get the titles that Set promised them, or equivalent titles.
Yeah.
Which, it feels like there could have been such an interesting side story that we're
Mhm.
just not privy to, regarding Phelan working with Penrod
Mhm.
to get the best titles possible out of Set
Mhm.
to then leverage with Straff. Like, that could have been some really neat politicking that we're just not going to get. And I'm a little
Yeah,
sad there,
we
but
may
that's
get, like,
fine.
some subtle reference to it if we get a feel in POV or something, but I don't think yeah, I just don't think
Yeah.
Sanderson was focusing on that. He was just like, "It's off screen, use your imagination, headcanon," and it happened. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's why I just noted it because, like, yeah, okay, we get a sufficient explanation of why the merchants changed sides. So it was just, okay, there was like, a double bluff, and the the offer that was made is that they would get titles matching the one that Set promised. So it's like, okay, whoever get it doesn't matter as long as we get our titles. I don't care who. I don't mind betraying
Yeah.
Set. So I can see that all working together. So I liked it. I liked having that explanation, and then we also get the explanation for why Straff would let that happen, which I enjoy. He basically explains, okay, well, because the reason is when Penrod he asks if this is going to happen or like it's just confirming it. Straff confirms yes he's going to do that because he'll get tax revenue from them. It's of course he's going to let this happen because they're worth it. He's not going to just slaughter them or whatever. No, they're an asset, so he keeps them. So more assets for Straff.
Yes.
And it's, yeah, inner workings of him. I like it. It's not just evil. It's just like, yeah, okay, admin, tax. I get tax. That's cool.
Yep. Then I'm going to read through a couple of points
Hmm.
here that we have listed. I'm glad we could come to an understanding, Straff. I don't trust Set. I doubt you trust me. But I do know you, Straff. You're one of us, a Luthadel nobleman. Besides, you have produced the most stable kingdom in the Dominances. That's all we're looking for right now. A little stability for this people. And we'll get to the second half of this
Hmm.
conversation in a moment, but there's a lot in there that I want to address.
Hmm.
As I had mentioned earlier, this idea of it going to Straff as a foregone conclusion because Straff represents stability more so than Set is, I think, really highlighted here
Hmm.
when Penrod says, you have produced the most stable kingdom in the Dominances.
Yeah, absolutely. But for me as well, for me, the reason that I highlighted this as well, we both did. For me as well, it was also it's it's showing Penrod, good guy Penrod. It's in that okay, yes, it's tyranny or whatever, but he's more familiar with Straff, so he would prefer Straff, and he wants stability for the people. He wants stability. So that's how he
Mm-hmm.
viewed the world, and that's why he made the decision he made. So
Yeah. Doing the fear thing. And
yeah.
there was so much talk in this book
Mm.
about the ska returning to what they know, so to
Hmm.
speak. They
Yeah.
they view Penrod as stable because that's all they've ever known.
Yeah.
And here we have Penrod saying, "You're one of us, a
Yeah.
Luthadel nobleman." He is sticking with what he knows
Yeah. I'm
for
I'm
stability.
I'm putting that in. Yeah, is returning, and there is mention earlier on that he did used to grovel at in front of Straff at parties. I suppose that's
Yeah.
how it was. So Penrod is returning to what he knew.
Yeah. In this way, he's not so different from the ska.
Yeah, I like that. I like that showing that here is a nobleman that's doing the same thing, that has the same fear. Yeah, for selfish reasons, but look, he's made decisions based on that. And that's why I say good guy, because it's like he's got motivations and I understand his fear. It's not that I'm like, yay, Penrod betrayed Ireland. I'm not saying that. And again, some more I like Penrod. I still like Penrod. I think that's what's coming up next.
Yeah, so that's all we're looking for right now. A little stability for this people. You almost sound like that fool son of mine. Penrod paused, then shook his head. Your boy isn't a fool, Straff. He's merely an idealist. In truth, I'm sad to see his little utopia fall. If you are sad for him, Fersen, then you are an idiot too. Penrod stiffened. Straff caught the man's proud eyes, holding them with his stare, until Penrod looked down.
Right. So, again, for me, I didn't put the whole thing. For me, it was more like it was just more okay. Penrod did it made I was disappointed in Penrod because it's like, why didn't you choose the utopia? You could have helped him, but because you think of it as little, you were like, okay, you know what? I'll take this side. And then how did yeah? So then, what were your notes on this?
Well, again, it's that whole Penrod is motivated by fear and he's looking for stability thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that he is a good man deep down.
Mm-hmm.
He has that soft spot for Ellen. He sees Ellen's virtues. He's sad to see the utopia go because he knows that there is goodness in it. And I even
Mm-hmm.
said with Tindwyl and Alrion,
Mm-hmm.
like when Tindwyl said she has a knack for seeing what is good in people, and I had said something to the effect of, I think that is born of being oneself a good person.
Mm-hmm.
It's that sort of same idea transposed over here.
Mm-hmm.
There is goodness in Penrod. He's just afraid, and that is made clear
Mm-hmm.
when Straff calls Ellen an idiot, and Penrod stiffens, and he calls Penrod an idiot too, and Penrod doesn't like that,
But then
and
he
then
looks
they
down.
lock eyes,
Mm.
and then he's the one that breaks. He's a good guy, but a
Mm-hmm.
coward.
Yeah.
And
And
can you blame him when your life's on the line?
mhm. I just put here Fersen will need to get you because he did say he does say this to Straff. Straff does say
Mm-hmm.
Fersen, you'll have to get used to being a small fish again. That actually is he's going back to what he knew again. So that he is going back to what
Yeah.
he knew. But the reason I put this in initially was, yeah, on the other end of that, Straff uses his first name the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. And Ellen's little utopia,
Hmm.
as Penrod puts it, may well be the closest thing this world has to all men are created equal.
Hmm.
That idea. So I'm sure it's disconcerting for Penrod to find himself once again below someone in the hierarchy.
Yeah, just this is what your choice was. You're below. You chose hierarchy, and you're gonna be downtrodden. So, but that was stability. That's what he wanted.
And then Straff, in his hubris, basically tells us that he has higher ambition than merely being king,
Hmm.
because he offers Penrod the opportunity to remain king.
Hmm.
Penrod looks up, and Straff says, For a long time this land didn't have kings. It had something greater. Well, I'm not the Lord Ruler, but I can be an emperor. You want to keep your crown and rule as a subject king under me? And, well, that is some high villainy right there. But not in that mustache twirling way, I think.
Like,
I think it's a good logical place to
mhm.
go,
Yeah,
and in keeping with him and his character.
I actually did think of that. I was thinking like, would Straff really want to stay and be king anyway? I think he wouldn't mind using Penrod as a puppet as long as he's looking down at the right time and doing what is told. That's why I said subject king. So, yeah.
It's smart. I mean, the entire world is probably too big for
Mhm.
one mortal man to rule alone, so why not
Yeah.
divvy it up as long as they all understand that they are under you?
Mhm. And then Penrod, the only response that Penrod gives is like he says it depends on the cost, and then we get a thing confirming that it would be the atium, that would be the cost of
Yes.
it, which is like okay, um, pe- uh, why would Penrod not give that up?
Because he doesn't have it.
But they talk about it. Straff is convinced that the Atium is still in the city. This boiled my blood.
Elend hasn't found it, but it's here somewhere. I was the one who mined those geodes. My men spent decades harvesting them and bringing them to Luthadel. I know how much of it we harvested, and I know that nowhere near the same amount came back out in disbursements to the nobility. The rest is in that city.
Yeah. So my worst part of that was I was the one who mined those geodes. Were you, sir? Were you the one down there scraping through getting cuts on your
Where are
arms
your
every
scars,
Yeah,
Straff?
you were the survivor of Hatson. I was just like, you little, oh, I mined. Oh, he actually really is proud of himself. He's like, I mined those geodes. Like that was it. And yes, he does say my
Mhm.
men and whatever. And it's like, no, I just did not like that. That was me for me, high villainy. Yeah.
Indeed. And I don't expect Straff
Mm.
to believe that the atium was used,
No, I don't. Yeah.
especially since I doubt he knows much about ferrochemy or that the Lord Ruler was a
Mhm.
ferrochemist. How would he know that? But I'm still waiting for Vin or Sazed to
Mm.
have that theory.
Yeah.
Honestly, I bet that theory is going to come from Marsh,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, that's a good prediction. I don't because why they haven't had it yet. They should have. Marsh would be like, "Hello."
Yeah.
Mhm.
In fact, I'm prepared to put that one in the prediction log. Marsh will voice that the atium was likely spent.
Okay. Okay, and on to that. So yeah, his thing is yeah. Okay, my balance is yeah. There was definitely a stockpile because he was keeping it, and of course our theory is
Mhm.
yeah, it's all gone because he was using it. Maybe there's some left, but I don't know. There's still the idea of them blowing up the city to find it, so that does worry me. Yeah, and also the Kolos involve Atium as well. In my theory still stands that the Kolos.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So then we have because we're still in the conversation actually between Penrod and Strath.
Yeah. So Penrod basically says he'll do what he can
Hmm.
or find what he can find. And then Straff asks, "Now what news do you bring of Ellen's mistress?" "She collapsed after the fight. I employ a spy on the cooking staff, and she said she delivered a bowl of broth to Lady Vin's room. It returned cold." "Could this woman of yours slip the Mistborn something?" "I don't think that would be wise, my lord. Besides, you know Mistborn constitutions.
Right. So
We know we know that Vin was injured, exhausted. In fact, she's probably deep in recovery mode since she, prior to this fight, hadn't been sleeping well. So I imagine there's some fatigue restoration going on there as well.
which might involve ale and not broth.
Yep.
Because remember, with the pewter drag, she was drinking ale, so
Yeah.
that could be part of her recovery. She's not going to be drinking the broth,
Yeah.
or she's still unconscious.
Yes. Quite surprised to hear, I suppose, that Penrod has a spy
Mm.
in Vin's group of people.
Well, it's a cook, so
Smart of Penrod.
yeah. But it is a cook at least, so it's not like in the crew. But still, we've had Breeze walk through. Probably Breeze. Those chatty women were one of them is the spy. Remember he soothed them to get them chatty or whatever. That that's what actually that made me think. Oh yeah, one of those might be Penrod's spy. And yeah, I was also surprised that Penrod had a spy in there, but also not surprised. Okay, I get it. That's what you do as a lord. And then Straff wants to okay, cool, let's poison Vin. through this spy. But Penrod doesn't want to. What did you think of this Penrod Paling? He's really not. He gives an excuse, and I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it would work. But is that good guy Penrod? He doesn't want to kill Vin? Or what is it? Scared Penrod.
I could be scared Penrod, could be a bit of the other option.
Mhm.
Good guy.
Good guy,
Probably a
scared
mix
guy.
of both.
Probably more scared than that because, like, I don't want to mess with the Mistborn because she's probably going to figure out that I poisoned her, and then I'm on her hit list. So you know what? I would rather not. So I think it's scared good guy. I don't think he gives that much of a
Yeah.
damn about Vin.
Yeah, and then Straff takes a moment to consider whether or not Vin really is incapacitated.
Mhm,
This would be the time to move in. He doesn't quite realize how close Vin really was to dying,
mhm,
and he thinks about that, the time that she soothed him, the numbness, the nothingness,
mhm.
and he must have had
I
a
know.
concerned look on his face, because
Yes.
Penrod is prompted to say, well, I'll read it. Perhaps she really is incapacitated. If we moved in. The chill of her touch on his emotions returned. Numbness. Nothingness. You needn't fear her so, my lord. Straff raised an eyebrow. I'm not afraid. I'm wary. I will not move into that city until my safety is assured.
Right. So there it's scared of Vin +1, and it was so visible. It really is like it was visible
Yeah.
because Penrod
Even to
told him.
Penrod.
And yeah, and he won't go in there until Vin is dealt with.
Yeah.
But then he
And
has to then he has to go further. Can't just sit with them. Oh yeah, you're scared of him, you're scared of him, scared of her, you're scared of her. He goes further to discuss the Kolos. So I think this is kind of a cover up.
yeah. Because he uses Set as an excuse not to go into the city
Mm.
quite yet. And he says, what would happen if those Kolos decided to attack the city, Fersen? I'm in negotiations with their leader, and he seems able to control them. For now. Have you ever seen the aftermath of a Kolos slaughter? He probably hadn't. Straff hadn't until recently. Now that's very ominous, I think, actually.
For me,
I found that line to be very ominous, what the Kolos can do.
I'm glad that you put this quote in completely because he says, I'm in negotiations with their leader. Doesn't say who the leader is, which, okay, it could just be him keeping information to himself, or the leader could have changed. Something bad could have happened to Justice. So that's what I want to put
Oh
there.
no.
Justice? Is Justice still the leader? Because, or is it just keeping it close to chest? You know?
I think it's still Justice. I think that Justice's thing is no one really sees him as a king or takes him seriously.
Mhm.
And this is just playing on that.
Mm.
Straff doesn't even deign to consider Justice king.
Yeah.
He's just the weird guy that somehow can lead the Kolos.
Yeah, I mean, he's one of Ellen's friends. He's hardly even a lord. So, but I just found it quite interesting that we just had their leader. You know,
Yeah.
it could go either way, but I'm thinking, yeah, it's just he's a lad. He's exactly the way that Penrod thinks of Ellen. That's how they would think of Justice even less. But he does have control over the Kolos, and then I will put there ominous because even it seems like even Straff was not
Disturbed.
disturbed. Yeah.
And then we get a pretty nice interaction in which I think it hits home for me that Penrod knows Elend and Vin.
Mhm.
Because Penrod said, Vin won't attack you. Not if the Assembly votes to put you in command of the city. Their transfer will be perfectly legal. I doubt she cares about legality. That may be, but Elend does, and where he commands, the girl follows. So, a couple of things there.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, as I said, Penrod knows them, but also will they agree to give it to Straff? Maybe Elend did enough good work to convince everyone that they could win, that they could get through this, and then maybe the end result will be that he can make Penrod brave enough to choose freedom over security.
I was thinking that. I was like, listen, as much as Penrod has made a mistake now, he's not lost. He's not all lost. He
Yeah.
could turn on Straff. I would like him to turn on Straff. That's what I was thinking, that it's possible that Penrod could turn back
Straff
and
could push too
yeah,
hard
yeah.
here.
But Penrod thinks that he's gonna give the it'll be easy. It'll be a I think that the reason that he says, well, the way he says that the transfer will be perfectly legal, he thinks it's going to be smooth, and I don't know. Will it be? Will it be that smooth? Elend,
I
yeah,
doubt it.
yeah, Elend may be convincing. So, and that then my question is, will Penrod answer the call and be a hero? Turn
Yep.
coat again? Hero? Will he? Will he? I don't know. But he's again
The
that's
pathway is open.
but yeah, and I also saw that. But Penrod knows Ellen and Vin. Absolutely, he knows that. Yeah, Ellen will definitely, as long as it's legal, he'll accept it because it's like, listen, if the assembly says, then he's done it. He's seen what he does. He did it with the king losing his kingdom, his kingship. He's seen that from Ellen. And you know what? This that may be, but Ellen does, and where he commands, the girl follows. It is true. That's the perception that everybody has, and I feel like
Mm-hmm.
Zane's ears are ringing with that.
Yeah.
Must have loved to hear that, because
Yep.
hearing the girl where he commands, because he that's part of his manipulation, or his perception of Vin is that she's under the control of Elend. So that's the point. So I feel like Zane might even bring that up if he speaks to Vin again.
Mm.
And Vin might get upset about it herself, whether or not she knows this. This is the perception. The perception. So that
Right.
leads more to that. Hey, these two knives, they're gonna yeet out of here.
Yeah.
Zane and her.
What will Elend do without Vin? Now he's become fairly capable. I think he'll be
Yeah, well, he's
decent.
disturbed by Vin anyway.
Yeah. And then we get Straff's well-known ability, or rather inability, to understand that people outside of himself can think differently. Because he thinks to himself, unless he has as little control over her as I have over Zane, Straff thought, shivering. No matter what Penrod said, Straff wasn't going to take the city until that horrible creature was dealt with. And then he goes on to freak out about the fact that he has to rely on Zane for that.
Mm-hmm.
Because he's really, really coming to not like Zane.
Yeah, he's
Um,
understands he doesn't have control over Zane, and that is a liability. But yeah, I wanna write that there, that Straff sees it all in terms of control over Mistborn. Not even a thought about their relationship.
yeah.
Hmm.
People can't behave earnestly.
Yeah.
People can't trust. People can't love. There's a little bit of a parallel there to Vin's
Hmm.
shtick.
Yeah. Ooh. But this, what will Vin has to choose what she's going to believe. Is she going to believe?
Hmm.
Will Vin think like Straff? Then just the thing that I noted over here, Fersen calls Straff by his first name. So Fersen said something, and then basically said, he says Straff, and then Lord Venture's like, you're going to have to get back into practice. And then he changes and says, my lord. It's just a payoff from him calling him Fersen the whole way through. Just, that show of power. And again, I think it just Penrod equals scared. That's basically the same point. Anything you wanted to add there?
Nothing in particular.
So then they talk afterwards. Well, that Penrod leaves, and Zane asks his father.
You really think he'd turn the atium over to you if he found it? Perhaps. He has to know that he'd never be able to hold on to it. He doesn't have the military might to protect a treasure like that, and if he doesn't give it to me, well, it would probably be easier to take the atium from him than it would be to locate it on my own. Straff's got plans with the atium, or
Yeah,
for the atium.
he's, but that is so Straff as well. Just it's like, yeah, why not? It really inconsequential. Penrod is inconsequential. He's just useful. In Penrod's own plans are inconsequential. Straff's plans take over.
Yeah.
Whoopsie. And Zane is satisfied with that answer. So it's like, okay, we'll take it from him, which absolutely natural answer from Straff.
Yep. They're not, of course, considering that it's not there.
No,
It's gotta be. Where else could it be? Everyone thinks it's there.
it's not occurring to them. It won't, and it makes sense that it doesn't.
Yeah.
Um,
It will be quite the reveal when they do realize.
Then we have a quite a dramatic moment.
Yes, now we get to the third part of this, the chapter, in which Zane asks for the time. He has poisoned Straff again. And this time, Straff didn't notice.
But Zane makes the Zane tells him, you see what I'm saying? Zane could have left it to see what happens, but instead he kind of warns him, basically. And he even, but then he says, oh, you win again, and then zooms off into the mists. It's like, no, actually.
Because you win again because Straff plays it off well enough.
Okay.
He pretends to be strong for a moment.
I feel like he wins again as well. This is the double meaning as well. He wins again by Zane let the warning go. So Zane's feelings let Straff win again. That's the thing. Him saying you win again, it's as if he inside him he's fighting with, do I kill my father? Do I not? Do I kill my father? Do I not? And this time the warning came out, therefore Straff wins. So it's in reality, yes, Straff won because he looks better, but then also underneath it all, Straff has won because Zane warned him, made him aware of it, gave him a bit more of an advantage.
Yeah, I'm not sure I follow all of that, but I'll say yes.
Okay. Hopefully you'll understand it later on.
That does happen from time to time.
I want to just put it in the notes, though. I do want to just put it in the notes.
So then Straff is freaking out, completely freaking out. As soon as like Zane leaves, he charges back to his camp, calling for his mistress. And it says he could feel the poison, feel it stealing his life, feel it threatening him, overcoming him. He went perhaps too quickly. It was difficult to maintain an air of strength when you were dying. And that's another one of those lines about difficult to maintain strength when you're dying that I think has that double meaning that we talked about earlier. Again, he looks secure, he looks strong, but it's a facade. Or there is a facade there.
Well, same thing with the world. The world is dying, really, with the ashes and things like that. But, you know, with the deepness and whatever coming. So the parallels are everywhere. I just wanted to note Gurwaith and Tomfo in as names of poisons because I'm like, why? Cool, it could be world building, just throwaway lines, or will those come back?
I like it.
Will those come back? That's the only reason I was. Will these be important later?
It's nice little bits of specificity.
Or yeah.
And Straff is so freaking out. He literally death charges one of his own soldiers. Straff rode the man down even as he turned aside his spear.
So yeah, it's
That seemed
very obvious.
scary.
It's very obvious. So yes, he has won in that he's gonna live, but he's also lost here in that it's quite obvious he's hasn't maintained his air of strength. He did until the end there when they were talking, but Zane's gonna hear about this, a god being charged over, and all of this. And there is
Yeah.
also another thing that he thinks.
Well, yeah, and Straff thinks to himself, there was no way he could hide this from Zane. I wouldn't be able to hide my death either. So he understands, like, he'll deal with Zane when he's not dead.
Yeah.
Um, and he yells for Amaranta, and he thinks to himself, damn him, I have to kill him, contain him, I have to do something, I can't rule like this. And Amaranta comes in, gives the antidote, and Straff comes to the conclusion, last sentence of the chapter, Zane had to die.
Yep, which is the great payoff after from the whole thing. So this little thing of the poisoning, which has been continued, it just now it's like no. This has gone too far. I can't do this. I can't continue this way.
Yes.
So it's a beautiful conclusion, but what do you have to say about Zane having to die?
I mean, what I have to say is there's one very simple solution that would totally probably work.
Mm-hmm.
Almost certainly.
Yeah.
Straff.
Mm-hmm.
Join Elend and have Vin kill Zane. Please, Straff. I beg you, go to your son and be like, "Show, about the whole me trying to kill you thing. I'm sorry about that. Save me, please. Zane is too much to... I can't control him. I need some help." And then, please do that, Straff.
Obviously, that's wishful
He's
thinking.
too proud. He won't.
Yeah, that's just you being wishful, because we have this repeated absolute fear of Vin. He's scared of both of these knives, okay? Both of them need to be disposed of.
But Straff could so easily, Vin won't be your friend, but she won't kill you as long as you're on Elend's side.
Yeah.
And Elend is idiot boy enough that if you go to him and be like, let's not be enemies anymore, Elend would give you a chance.
Logically.
Straff.
Yes, logically. But Straff's ego will not let that happen.
Of course not.
Because also I am not going to live with I need to have some sort of control over Elend's mistress. Elend has used his mistress against me. So I don't want to rely on these sons. He can't rely on anyone else but himself. So yeah, that's why I say wishful thinking. I don't think that's going to happen. And you know what? Serves you right, Straff.
Yeah.
Sending your sons to just breeding some allomancers just so that you can throw them at your problems. My God. And yeah, you know what? Look what you did. You landed up with an insane allomancer. That's what you did. You went and made a crazy nuke. And I'm worried for Vin. She is so incapacitated. So yeah. The knife.
Yeah, if you're gonna act now.
Yeah. Knives are gonna go running. Okay, that's my prediction.
Uh-huh.
You're gonna go to the Well of Ascension, but I don't know if we'll see it this chapter. I mean, this book.
Yeah.
Right. Is that it?
Okay.
Can I just do this thing? This is my favorite. One of my favorite things to do. Zoom out. Look at that chapter. I think maybe we do that 3 parts. We do part 1, part 2, part 3.
That sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
This has been a very neat and interesting little experiment. We'll post this in the Discord for folks who want to join, I think, yeah?
Yes, absolutely, please. Nerd out, get the references. Let's go.
Yeah. Thank you all for tuning in. Subscribe to that darn Kite if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Okay, thanks, bye.